Good evening. I hope this Go Live, as always, finds you warm and well wherever you may be. I know here in St. Louis, in this general area that we live in, we're expecting snow as of tonight. So, that's kind of exciting to see how many inches we'll actually get. No big surprise with how it's January, because around this time of year it's always really cold, right? But yeah, and I think as far as that goes, it's been a pretty good day. I think it's not been bad. I think I just now had maybe a little too much pizza to eat. So that's probably why I'm like, I always reflect on how I'm feeling, and I definitely feel full at this moment. So to continue on with our Fool's Journey for our Tarot Teaching Moment, last night we had reviewed the Wheel of Fortune, okay, which in a nutshell is where on the journey the Fool makes a decision, okay? And I know that during last night's Go Live, which if you haven't seen it, I would say please review that, because it does link in with what we're about to, with the card we're about to review tonight. And I had covered during last night's Go Live about how whenever we make decisions, it's a cause and effect type thing. For every action, there's a consequence. Some are good and others are bad. So it makes sense that we're going from the card that's number 10 for the Wheel of Fortune, also known as the Wheel for short, progressing into the 11th card for Justice. And I will go ahead and hold this up so you guys can see it. Just kind of take him in for a moment. And again, this is a card from the classic Rider-Waite-Smith, because it's what we always begin with. And we're going to go ahead and review some things with the card. And I have to keep in mind when I'm holding these cards up, what I'm seeing may appear reversed on the video. So just kind of keep it in mind. It's like a mirror image. So at the very top of the card, there's the Roman numeral for 11, okay? And 11 is considered a master number. So like 1 and 1, so if you had 1 plus 1 equals 2. So when you think about that, it's like when we're talking about cause and effect, it's like that it takes into consideration that yin and yang, logic and intuition, to come to say a result, for example. So other master numbers, it would be like 11, 22, 33. And when I do research numerology, so you assess the meaning of the actual number, but then you would look at it. So for instance, this is 11, what the primary number of 1 means. What does 1 plus 1 mean? What does the number 11 mean? And especially as you advance with your tarot reading skills, if you see the same number occur on different cards that you're reading, I would definitely say jot that down and look up the significance of the number. So numerology is a completely different thing. It links in with tarot. Like, there is so much that goes into reading tarot. It's so much to just wrap your mind around, which is probably why I love it. It's very complex and interesting to me. So we're seeing this gentleman, which when we think of justice, we generally think of judges. So, that we go and we see in court at times. And we're going there for someone to basically, if you think about a judge, for example, there are laws in place that he or she are very familiar with. They're going to hear both sides of the case and be impartial, right? You're going to take in the info, look at the evidence, and reach a decision. That's very much the overall energy for this card. So with this gentleman, okay, is very similar to, say, if you remember the High Priestess or the Hierophant. They had these 2 concrete columns on either side of them. So this is another card that is similar to them. And as I researched the symbols for us for our lesson, it's a nod to how this figure, Okay, this is the first time along the Fool's journey. Okay, so he's made that decision along the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, right? This is where the Fool's going to answer for that decision. And they may not like the decision rendered. Justice can be seen as not only somebody that is representative of the law, like a judge, but it could also be referenced such as karma. So what we put out into the universe, we will generally get back that same energy. But it's not like, of course, 100%. So theoretically speaking, people who do good can still have bad things happen to them. There's just certain things in life that are beyond our control. So one column stands for, like, let me see, I think it's compassion or mercy. I wrote them down here. I'm going to reference what I wrote down here. So the left one is for severity. So very similar to the sword, which you know in tarot, the swords are all about action, communication. It's associated with air. So this figure is holding up this sword. The decision is final. And the very top of the blade, you see how it's pointed and like it's like a two-sided blade, for lack of a better word. So that would be just that cause and effect coming into play. This person's gonna make a decision, okay, a ruling, for a better use of a word, with this sword, kind of like the hammer going down, or the gavel, is that what they call it? That would be like the gavel or the hammer, right? Now, so we address this one. So this is severity, which is the left one. The right one being mercy. So it's not a one size shoe fits all people. People are unique, and there's unique circumstances that surround everything. So a judge has to utilize not only their logic, more so I would believe than anything, but also what is their gut telling them. So we're getting some high priestess vibes, like they're probably more than likely assessing, does this witness, sound like a reliable one? Are there holes in their story? Something doesn't feel right. So very much that gut intuition that defies just written, so that, that definitely comes into play when it comes as to, a ruling. So here, essentially, weighing the data, the evidence based on the intuition, it is obtaining a balance. And so basically, imagine us in the courtroom, as this scenario plays on. So at first there's a lot of obscurity and unknowns with whatever the subject matter might be, right? But now we're seeing that curtain fall down. And it's like on this card, it looks maroon to me, but other depictions are violet. So when you think of violet, you're thinking of like a divine meaning, but basically it's stripping away the unknown, and we're seeking that enlightenment, which is also a new beginning for the Fool. Again, it's irregardless. It doesn't matter if the Fool likes the decision or not. There will be a decision made which will change the trajectory of their journey. So then, of course, I'm always telling you guys to look at color. So the color of his garment is predominantly red, which reflects passion, authority. He's got like this square pin that's securing his cape. And that symbolizes that he's very rational. In addition to the stone here, it's also square shaped, showing that we call that third eye. It's like it's an additional way of seeing things for what they are. And again, being very analytical and logical. So this gentleman is very much, he's got that Libra energy. He's seeking fairness, even though we know in life isn't fair. We're taught that from the time we're little. But his job is to give a fair ruling, and more so based in logic, but also listening to his intuition. And the crown shows his authority. He is meeting us. He's looking directly forward, maintaining eye contact. He is not looking away. He is not looking down. And as he's holding the sword and scales, you can tell if you were to approach this gentleman that yes, he is listening to you. He's detached. It doesn't look like he's excited or emotionally vested, very much taking in the info that he's given to make a ruling. And he's positioned in this seat that he's sitting on, made of stone. So this is a burden. This gentleman is not seated on top of pillows. Like think of like our pentacle energy, like the Queen of Pentacles, which is from the Minor Arcana, or even our Empress that we reviewed with the Major Arcana. They're very much lush with nice pillows and abundant surroundings, and they're very much comfortable. In sharp contrast to, say, the Emperor card, he sits on a concrete throne, not very comfortable. It's reflecting how, yes, this gentleman has power, but his power is a burden. And that his job is not an easy job, and it's not one he takes lightly, and it's not one he's going to be sitting in a comfortable chair, because again, it's the necessity to realize that I feel like I'm about to reference a Spider-Man movie. With great power comes great responsibility, right? So that very much weighs on this gentleman. Again, a very neutral, passive observer, but firm. So after this card, there's no, going back to court and trying to fight for a different decision. This is it, right? So as far as I'm going to look at other things I may have written down. So we reviewed that this is a result. The Fool made a decision, okay, like last night when we talked about the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, now it's time to have those consequences, good or bad. Basically, it's like, okay, so we mentioned that we're restoring balance with our scales. Let's see here. I'm looking here. I think we've covered a good part of it. Now, the violet veil behind him, like I had alluded to that, and we discussed that. So it also reflects wisdom, dignity, and compassion. Okay. But for me, when I see this, because again, I want you guys to be more so intuitive readers, not, I don't want you just memorizing things. These cards have to resound with you, okay? It is what you see, how it makes you feel, and being very aware. Again, this veil is being dropped, and we're gaining that clarity, that illumination, which is the equivalent of those sun rays that we've referenced in other cards. That's what's happening here. So in other things I've read, the red robe can also signify courage. So it's power and courage. And then it was referencing the green cape, which here it looks more like his cape looks more golden on this card to me than green. But they say that the color green stands for vitality and life. But for me, when I see this, I see predominantly gold. So with this, it could be legal matters, which is where our minds go to. It could signify other things when you think of restoring balance in your life. It could be you're trying to determine if a relationship that you're in is good or not. And when you pull this card, it's going to kind of cause you to reflect about, is it good or not? Is your life in balance or not? What do you need to do? Or it could be at like what we've covered. Well, we haven't covered it yet, but a tower moment where you've got uncontrollable change coming. So buckle up and get ready. So all cards are beautiful and have some significance. So we'll get to that one. I won't dig too far down in the rabbit hole. And so it could be like other areas in your life that you need balance to It just kind of, as time goes on, as you pull more cards, you look at the big picture and you reflect about what's going on in your life. And, that's how you derive insight. So let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and look at our other cards. So here's one. And so this lady has got this sword, and it looks like she's unsheathing it. So it's like the sheath and she's pulling it back. But so she's not making direct eye contact with us. So she is looking downward, and looks like she's got a little bit of a smile going on. And in the background, it's a blue sky. It looks like some white clouds, but it's predominantly clear. Now, if we flip it upside down, now this lady's looking directly at us, okay? And she looks very impartial. There is no little smirk on her face. Her hair appears like brown with like some blonde streaks in it. The background behind her is dark in contrast to the blue. So with this, it's kind of like when you look in a mirror at a reflection, or say if you're about to go fishing, and I know you can't see all the fish, but you're kind of looking to see, well, shoot, does it look like anything's biting? So this lady is looking down at her sword because she's going to have to make that decision like we were talking about with our original card. Here is showing a very confident face, which I think under the surface, this is going on, And another way of looking at it figuratively with this card, because of artistic freedom, is if you look at it this way, these scales look like cups that are turned upside down. And if you were to look at it a certain way, it would almost be like they're being emptied out. And cups are all about emotions. So that's actually very valuable with this card because logic is predominant. Yes, intuition and compassion and all that comes into play, but it's about the evidence and rationality and hard data and making that good final decision. Emotions should not come into play with this. So that makes sense that the author drew these the way she did. And here, it's more of an uncertain background. That veil is still very much up. It's not coming down like it is in our original card. So even though it doesn't have, of course, all the symbols with the original Rider-Waite-Smith card, I feel that a lot of meaning can be derived just by looking at the picture, and that's without even knowing anything about tarot. I would highly recommend, as you're learning, to intuitively observe how they're looking at you, if it's directly or off to the side. What colors are you seeing? What characteristics do you assign to those colors? What are they doing in the card? What actions are they doing? What people or pets or objects are around them? And then that's how you create a narrative within your head. I would encourage you to just jot down what you're seeing and then look at the book that's included with the deck, because there's many times I've done readings for myself and other people where what we see and what's in that reading is totally different from the book. So, but it's a really good for, if you're stumped on a card, if it doesn't make sense, or you need a little bit of additional insight, of course look at your book. I still look at my book sometimes, but I value my intuition more than the book, because life is more complex than the book, right? Here's another one, and it shows this lady, and like one eye is concealed, but the other one is very wide open with scales. So I feel like her hair is symbolic of the veil that's not quite pulled back yet. It's still very high up. And then here, she's very observant. She's not opening her mouth or talking. She's just a neutral, impartial observer, and she's intuitive. So in her little eye here at pupil, yes, intuition is in play. How does this make her feel as she's receiving this info? But she's weighing the data to come to a conclusion. And here, her hair looks very still and it's laying appropriately. Here, the wind is blowing it. So I think that kind of symbolically shows as she's taking in this info and taking in all these various elements, right? There's going to be some movement, and eventually that hair is going to pull back from the other eye, and that sword is going to come down, and she is going to make a decision. And if the fool doesn't like it, well, tough luck, fool. Go ahead and hit the road and meet your next character, because she's not going to deal with them, right? Another one would be this one. So for the like similar symbols, so we're seeing the crown, which reflects authority, and instead of a veil, we have a ribbon going over the crow's eye, which is not secured on that crow. It's just kind of loosely hanging over the eyes. So as the crow flies upward and the air moves that down, this is going to fall off his eyes. He's going to be able to understand and see more. And he's got the scales going on. And in the background, it's like a mix of like maybe gold and blue. It's really pretty. There is that square right here, which, you know, if you remember from what we talked about earlier, that's our logic and rationality. So very much this bird is very much based in that. The scales also, you know, not only balance, but intuition. So it's how he's feeling about taking all this info in. And he's making efforts to reach that verdict. And I think that's cool. So I'll end it with the card, which I will cover it because she is not, you know, not wearing a bra, and I don't want to go to Facebook jail. So this lady is walking through some like vegetation of sorts, and she's rather small. Like if you look at her, like she's got these bees flying around her and ants. And when you think of bees and ants, they work really hard. And here she's very vulnerable. But if you also observe, she's moving. So she's walking in a forward trajectory. She probably feels very vulnerable and exposed. So this could be the results of her actions. And then behind her, there's a garment of sorts, which could stand for the veil. So with a way of looking at it from an artistic viewpoint, imagine the veil as her garment, which obscured the truth. But as the truth comes to light, the garment gets stripped away and she's exposed bare, as is the truth, you know? And so, yeah, so that's what I get from that. But again, we don't have the symbols that we were talking about in the other cards that are based with our Rider-Waite-Smith, which is this guy. So that covers Justice for tonight. And then tomorrow I will cover card 12 in the Major Arcana, which is the Hangman. If so far, I know we've been covering a lot, and it's good that we're taking our time and taking these cards in, because it's going to make you a stronger reader. It's not a race about learning, you know, who's going to learn the quickest, because you really want to take in these cards and kind of think on them. That's how you're going to build up your intuition and your comfort with them. So I'm really excited for those of you who are interested in tarot, because it's a really exciting journey to be on. So I think that wraps us up for tonight. I will be posting these on Facebook under Mountain Crow Tarot. And of course, if you need a reading, feel free to shoot me a message or look me up on my website, and we will figure that out as far as me giving you a reading. I love doing them, so that would be awesome. And if you have any questions about my business, let me know too. And I'm pretty transparent. So I think that sums things up. And my candles will be coming soon. I've almost got everything squared away with my husband's help. So here soon I will be able to legally sell my candles online. And I'm looking forward to kind of evolving that concept. And kind of interweaving it with my readings. So, because I love candle making and I love tarot. Well, I really care about you guys. And again, I hope that you're happy and safe wherever you are and that you're having a good week. Good night.